Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Maloney High School's Parisi Theater for tonight's 127th annual Hicks Prize Essay and Speaking Contest. My name is Dan Gaffney. I am an English teacher here at Maloney, and I will be one of your hosts for this evening. My job usually entails saying a few words about the founder of this event, Ratcliffe Hicks. And right now I'm about to say something that I know Ratcliffe Hicks never said. At this time, please take a moment to turn off all your electronic devices. If you've read the back of your program, you may be wondering why Mr. Hicks maintained an interest in the city of Meriden at all, as his bio says very little about his time in this town. Well, after graduating from Brown University in 1854, Hicks became a prominent businessman and politician, serving as Meriden's city attorney and owning real estate and manufacturing companies in Meriden at a time when the city was thriving economically and known as the Silver City capital of the world. Hicks was very forward-thinking for his time, championing the cause of women's rights, as well as blasting the inhumanity of the death penalty. Sorry to disappoint you, Dimitri. Thanks for that, Mr. Good. When Hicks moved back to Tolland, Connecticut, his birthplace, he was struck by the poverty in the rural areas around him. Never forgiving Brown University for misspelling his first name on his diploma, Hicks approached the University of Connecticut and sought to donate to the School of Agriculture. He hoped to create an agricultural school where men, and now women, of good moral character and of promising intelligence would study agricultural arts, forestry, irrigation, and other related subjects, with the belief that farming does not always have to lead to socioeconomic disparity, poverty, and bankruptcy. Hicks believed in the value of citizenship. In fact, he required all future farmers at UConn to take a political science course so that they could be more well-informed about the role that national, state, and local governments play in their everyday lives. In Meriden, he established a $1,000 trust, lots of money in those days, to encourage writing and public speaking at the high school level. His generosity centered around molding promising students into responsible citizens. Since 1892, Hicks Prizes have been awarded to high school students in Meriden who wrote and delivered the best essays. In 1937, officials at Meriden High School decided to award medals and prizes to students in both categories. And since 1959, Platt and Maloney High Schools have held separate contests to recognize and honor students at each school who have the best essay and the best speech. And if you'll allow me a brief moment to opine, contests like these are needed now more than ever. Students across the country fell in love with texting a while ago and with Twitter a few years back. Twitter. The ability to communicate in 140 characters or less. Believe it or not, Twitter has grown tiresome and is too tedious. Why actually have a thought? Just hashtag it. Better yet, don't write at all. Simply send an emoji, or lots of them. Quick, take a picture. Post it on Instagram or Snapchat. After all, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Someone have an idea similar or contrary to yours? Email or text the link. Post it on Facebook. See how many likes you get. Your followers will get the gist. Your haters will troll. And at the end of the day, who really cares? What happened? Did you actually say anything at all? Technology has made it possible to communicate internationally and instantaneously. Yet how many teenagers converse with one another? How many of them discuss things with others? Why even bother to speak with your annoying little brother or your pestering parents at the dinner table? Hey Alexa, pass the mashed potatoes. It's always refreshing for me to host this event, to see students engaging in quality essay writing and learning the nuances that constitute effective oratory skills. Colleges and universities across the country, and later on, businesses around the world, still value students' abilities to convey meaning through oral and written expression. The students before you tonight, and many others in the class of 2018, have worked very hard to master these skills. Tonight, all of their talent and hard work is on full display. Lots of audience members here are underclassmen, no doubt present tonight because English department teachers promised extra credit if you attend. But to all the underclassmen, use this contest as a wonderful opportunity to witness firsthand what you yourself will soon be experiencing. We hope to see lots of you up here real soon, dazzling listeners with your own personal masterpieces or making your parents and relatives proud with the beautiful prose you composed. To members of the class of 2018, whether you are on stage or in the audience, after you leave Maloney High School, I challenge you to be more like Ratcliffe Hicks. Do something that you love and do it well. Become actively involved in your community and its affairs. Be sticklers for detail. Be magnanimous with your time, your talent, and your earnings. And last but certainly not least, never forget the city you came from, no matter where you end up. To the rest of our audience members, long ago high school students, thank you very much for coming this evening. And to introduce the finalists in the 127th Annual Hicks Prize Essay and Public Speaking Contest, here is my boss, English Department Chairperson, Mrs. Kelly Sear.
Thank you. Good evening. I would just like to ask for a round of applause for our orchestra quartet led by Mrs. Cohen as you walked in. This year we decided to do something a little different. We have our essayists here and our speakers here. Usually the essayists have it pretty easy. They just sit and look pretty. And today we have asked them to read part of their essays for you, so we will start with that. Our first essayist, Elena Anatrella, is the daughter of Peter and Kelly Anatrella. She is an active member of Maloney's DECA and Interact clubs. In her free time, Elena enjoys spending time with her friends and going to the gym. She will be attending the University of New Hampshire and pursuing a career in psychology. She also plans to minor in creative writing. Elena's inspiration for her essay, Stronger Than You Know, came as she reflected on her past. She wanted to highlight a period of self-growth after enduring a hardship. At this time, I'd like to invite Elena up to read her essay.
Hi everyone, my name's Elena and my essay is about overcoming hardships we experience in life and how my personal experiences have shaped me into the person that I am today. These are a few paragraphs towards the end of my essay which reflect my self-growth and new positive outlook on life. I began to realize my self-worth and learned that not everyone you lose is a loss, and life is filled with so many lessons, even if we don't know it in that moment. I redirected all the love and care that I once gave to other individuals, and when they showed me that they no longer wanted it, I started to love and care for myself, something I have never done before. Although sometimes it can be the hardest thing, you have to forgive those who have hurt you, even if they were never sorry, and you must find strength in yourself, not others. Losing my grandmother and not having my old support system available has changed me for the better. Each morning, I wake up and I tell myself it's going to be a good day. No longer do I fake that smile I once did. I changed the way I viewed the world, and the world began to change. I feel as though in order to realize this, it is crucial to experience hardship. People constantly tried to tell me things would get better and everything would be okay. A friend of mine used to always say, "One day this will be a distant memory, all of it will fade." But it doesn't just happen, I had to make it happen. She could not have told me that part. I had to recognize it for myself. In losing people I loved, I found myself. I am happier now than I have ever been, and I have only myself to thank. It's an amazing feeling. We all really do have the power to change our life. We all have a choice. Overcoming these challenges have shaped me into the person that I am today. That person is strong and ambitious. That person knows that she is enough and there is nothing that she cannot do. That person is optimistic for her future because she now knows of her capabilities and no longer doubts herself. I'm going to make the rest of my life the best of my life. Days are so much brighter when you focus on what truly matters. If you get a chance, take it, and if it changes your life, let it. Love the people who treat you right and forget about the ones who don't. Your life is your message to the world, so make sure it's inspiring.
Thank you. Olivia Bischoff is up next. She is the daughter of Ben and Roseanne Bischoff. She is the youngest of 7, and although only 2 of her siblings are here tonight, she is looking forward to her graduation when all of the Bischoffs will be reunited. When Olivia isn't reading in her hammock, you can find her hiking or longboarding. She is a member of the varsity soccer team, and she is vice president of the senior class. Olivia has deferred her acceptance to Plymouth State University until next fall because this fall she has decided to enroll in AmeriCorps and will be moving to Louisiana. Olivia's essay, Alone with Myself, explains her connection to her siblings despite the physical distance between them. She explains how she has learned that being alone allows time for oneself to discover new adventures. I give you Olivia Bischoff.
I'm the youngest of 7. My older sister left for boarding school when I was only 2 years old, and each one after her contributed to raising me during their time at home. I'm one of 3 still living in the state, and one of 3 siblings who were born soulmates. We are the siblings that can understand each other without verbal communication. We share the same thought processes and overall emotion on typically controversial topics. I understand the process from transition from school to real life, and I am well versed in farewells. I felt 24 since I was 14 years old, so it never came as a surprise to me when the next sibling left the house. Step 1, graduate high school. Step 2, move away. I was never naive. I was simply hopeful that they would keep in touch while they were gone. In the book, When Women Were Birds, Terry Tempest Williams speaks of the death of her mother in the same way I would describe the absence of my siblings, Faith and Chris. In my physical world, presence. Williams explains that her mother's physical being was replaced by the lack of her being, and hoped that she would one day reappear. Though my experience of loss is not such in a permanent way, I've repeatedly felt the pain of gaining and losing intimate connections. In their absence, I've learned to fill the void with the lessons they've shared with me. Faith and Chris have shown me beautiful love that surrounds me with kindness and gives me the confidence to live fearlessly. As friends, they teach me to embrace my strange and unique ways and always encourage me to continue to be curious and explore my passions. As older siblings, they inspire me to continue being who I am without hesitation, without hiding from myself, family, or friends. They make me understand that I, too, am important and valued. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Nowicki is our next essayist. Katie is the daughter of Michael and Danielle Nowicki. Her involvement at Maloney includes participating in youth and government, volunteering through the Interact Club, and playing varsity tennis. In her free time, Katie enjoys figure skating and volunteering at a local credit union. She will be attending the University of Tampa and majoring in finance this fall. The purpose for Katie's essay, Mapping Through My Mind, was to raise awareness for mental health and create a space where people feel comfortable talking about it. Please welcome Katie.
I'd like to believe that I came straight out of the womb with anxiety. I've always been hesitant to write about my battle with mental illness because I didn't ever think I would be in a better place. Just recently, I began to change what I thought was my certain fate. Allow me to further explain. For as far back as my memory goes, I was unlike my peers. I crack jokes about it now, but at the time it was a strange feeling. In preschool, I had difficulty saying goodbye to my parents as they dropped me off in the morning. I would shove my entire body into the bottom shelf of toys and cry for the entire morning. This separation anxiety turned into an everyday occurrence. My fixation on choosing my outfits became prominent in kindergarten. I would change my outfit 2, even 3 times after getting dressed every morning. I wasted a lot of time and it became a problem. About 1 in 5 Americans suffer from mental illness per year. 20% of the population is a considerable size. The reality is that mental illness is prevalent in society, and it is our job to spread awareness and start the conversation. Mental health is equally as important as physical health. I grew up surrounded by mental illness that has affected various members of my family and also myself. My understanding of mental disorder from both research and personal experience has allowed me to become more open-minded and understanding of others. Standing here today, I feel more empowered than I ever have. The fact that I am able to exist here in front of you all and project my innermost thoughts about how my struggle with anxiety and how it has affected my life is an accomplishment for me. I am much different than the little 8-year-old girl who walked into her first therapy session closed-minded and forced by her mother. I am different than the 12-year-old girl who would have panic attacks and heart palpitations nearly every day caused by ordinary daily tasks. I am different than the 16-year-old girl who would worry herself physically sick. I am now the strong, brave, and independent 17-year-old girl who was hiding behind the mask of my anxiety all along. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Our final essayist, Brianne Pappas, is the daughter of Gary and Heather Pappas. Brianne is the drum major for the marching band, section leader for the clarinets, a member of the orchestra, part of Tri-M Music National Honor Society, and a member of the National Honor Society. Brianne enjoys reading and hiking, and she is this year's valedictorian. This fall, she will attend Quinnipiac University, where she has already been accepted into the Physician's Assistant Program. The inspiration for her essay, Women in Medicine, stems from her desire to practice medicine, which also caused her to ponder the history of women in the science and medical field. Here is Brianne.
Females were only able to serve as midwives and nurses due to the fact that admission to medical school is restricted to men until 1847, when Elizabeth Blackwell became the first female admitted to Geneva Medical College in New York. Dr. Blackwell was, in large part, inspired to attend medical school when her dying friend had proclaimed that she would have been spared her worst suffering if her physician had been a woman. Though disgusted by the idea at first, Dr. Blackwell realized that she would open many opportunities for others and was looking up for the challenge. Jokingly, Geneva Medical College admitted her and she became the first woman in history to receive an American MD degree. Dr. Blackwell and her colleagues formed the New York Infirmary for Women and Children and began to change the face of medicine. Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell's work resulted in the establishment of 19 women's medical colleges as well as 9 women's hospitals by the end of the 19th century. Many institutions, including University of Iowa, University of Michigan, opened coeducational programs as well. Women were finally paving their path to success in the medical field until Abraham Flexner halted the progress in the 20th century by demanding stricter curriculums and the closing of many medical schools, most of which were for females and minorities. Abraham Flexner was not intending to halt this progress, but rather attempting to better the standard of education at medical school by informing them of their lack of standards and inability to adhere to the protocols of mainstream science. Progress resumed after the Title IX of the Education Amendments was passed, prohibiting discrimination in educational opportunities based on sex, enabling women to return to their medical programs. I've had a plan set in my life since I was young. However, I never really thought of why I set these goals in medicine. Now that I'm older and I've reflected on my childhood, I realize that many events have occurred pushing me towards the wanting to practice medicine. When I was about 5 years old, my grandfather passed away due to terminal prostate cancer. I watched his physical condition rapidly deteriorate and his mind along with it. As I was a child, I only understood that Grandpa was sick. I did not understand the severity of his sickness, resulting in my high hopes of him getting better. Finally, chemotherapy got the best of him and he passed away as we were there in the room with him. I was escorted out of the room by the nurses so that the ceremonies could take place, and I asked the nurse, under the impression that he just fell asleep, if the doctors would make him any better. That day, I told them that I would one day become a doctor so I can help him and other people like him in his situation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to give them a round of applause one more time for their topics. And thank you, ladies, for taking the leap of faith to read part of your essays and being the first group to do that for us. We appreciate it. Now on to the speakers. Our first speaker is Dimitri Carnot. Dimitri is the son of Dion and Della Carnot. He has participated in youth in government, DECA, youth in law, as well as being a student representative to the Board of Education. Dimitri is a talented athlete, too. He is the captain of the golf team and wrestling team. He is actually the back-to-back Class L state champion and state open participant for wrestling. When I asked Coach Banis to describe Dimitri, he said, in all facets of his life, he makes the difficult look easy because of the effort he puts into his preparation. Dimitri plans to attend Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and major in finance. In his speech, Why is the Right Wrong?, Dimitri questions restraints that society puts on free speech. I give you Dimitri Carnot.
In recent years, the First Amendment of the United States, specifically the issue of freedom of speech, has been a more controversial topic than ever before. The challenge to free expression on college campuses in particular has never seemed greater. Freedom of speech is a fundamental American freedom and a universal human right. College campuses all across America should act as a marketplace of ideas where speech is valued and protected. Yet, freedom of speech is under continuous threat on many of America's campuses. More to the point, this freedom is pushed aside in favor of politics. And in case you did not know, college campuses tend to lean just a little to the left. As a result, conservative ideas and values are becoming confined to small free speech zones, and there have been administrative attempts to punish or repress right-wing expression. On some campuses, liberal college students have even resorted to violence in an attempt to restrict conservative speakers or people with opposing viewpoints from sharing their ideas. College campuses have become an angry reflection of a divided country. We have seen it everywhere, including here in our own state. Just a few months back, the University of Connecticut hosted conservative speaker Lucian Lethbridge. During his speech, a woman in the crowd, later discovered to be an employee of the state university system, who disagreed with his controversial opinions, lunged at the podium, taking his papers. Later that evening, a UConn student broke one of the lecture hall's windows, and a smoke bomb was thrown inside. Security and campus police were ill-prepared and ill-informed about potential disruptions given the uprising challenge to free speech. In a campus-wide email, UConn President Susan Herbst stated that events or other programming would not be allowed if the university determined that the individual involved represents a danger to our community. Now, the basis of this email is a way to conveniently allow or ban speech through a loophole in a distorted policy. Let's take this statement to its logical extreme. Say the University of Tennessee women's basketball team plays UConn at Gamble Pavilion. Are Tennessee fans not allowed to attend or even wear their Tennessee orange because it may trigger a danger? Does every fan in attendance need to wear Husky blue and white to keep the venue safe? Or how about if the UConn men's team schedules a game against Duke? Would Should FC be allowed on campus, or would his mere presence present a danger to the community? At the University of California, Berkeley, a student-led group hosted conservative speaker Ben Shapiro last September. Hours before Shapiro was scheduled to speak, protesters swarmed outside chanting various slogans and promoting violence as police stood in full riot gear, taking preventative action. Between law enforcement costs and damages caused by protesters, the university spent upward of $600,000 in an attempt to protect their students and the speaker. While Shapiro was still able to speak, two other conservative speakers, Ann Coulter and Miley Yiannopoulos, were shut down by Berkeley around the same time due to numerous threats of violence that could risk the safety of students. Berkeley has become a hub for political discord and liberal groups armed and prepared to suppress any attempt at conservative ideas being shared. Given the expenses of the events that have occurred at UConn and Berkeley, more universities are shying away from allowing conservative speakers to lecture. Educational institutions that breed leftist ideology face a quandary where right-wing speakers come to college campuses to share their ideas about social and political issues. It seems now that higher educational institutions have manifested indoctrination over education. The right is forced to these free speech zones and safe spaces given the emphasis on liberal activism. The left has controlled academia since the earliest years of higher education in America, rightfully so given McCarthyism, the Cold War era, and the government's stance on Vietnam. But the idea that conservative students and speakers on college campuses can share their often unpopular opinions has come with the fear of retribution. These students with political views outside of the norm are intimidated into silence because of the dominant and often oppressive liberal ideologies on college campuses. Today, the word hurtful comes off as any far-reaching ideology that falls out of line with another's thoughts. Uncomfortable truths that come off as distressful are being ignored simply because they are triggering. Students who feel so-called triggered by this speech often refer to it as hate speech. These triggered students act to defend political correctness in hopes that others will view the speech as demonizing, and that it has potential to ruin one's identity as a human being. The benefits of protecting free speech that isn't popular greatly outweigh the damage inflicted. These words and ideas challenge the opinions of other students and create for some of the best debate. The repercussions that come from silencing right-wing students is not beneficial to our nation, nor the students on college campuses, and by no means allows for the marketplace of ideas that is essential for America's progression. Nationwide, most colleges claim to be free speech environments, but there's something extremely antithetical about claiming to be a free speech environment when students are subject to speak freely in a small free speech zone safely tucked away from the threat of triggering others. I'll cite another instance. Last year at Pierce College in Los Angeles, a student was handing out copies of the United States Constitution. The student was stopped by an administrator who told her he could not distribute literature outside of a small area on campus designated as a free speech zone, and that he also needed a permit to distribute 3 copies of the United States Constitution. These types of restrictions, some even district-wide policy in places, are doing no good in coddling millennial students. And let's not forget that these students who are being silenced are paying a sizable price to be educated, yet they can't even express their First Amendment right to freedom of speech. Colleges can no longer continue to restrict this open-minded thinking from students. Any speech, no matter its unpopularity or divisive intent, should have a place to be spoken, given it does not promote or cause violence. If we as American people, no matter our political views, allow the left's opinion to be the only one heard, then we are forfeiting true democracy, a collaboration of ideas and opinions of all American people. In order to have genuine freedom of speech, one must be free to question, contradict, and even disagree with the assertions of others. While I do applaud the intent of colleges with such restrictions to avoid harassment of students and disruption of normal operations, I ask myself this question constantly. Where does America draw the line on our free speech outrage? Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri. Our next speaker is Clay Fanning. Clay is the son of Wendy and Aaron Merrick. Clay is vice president of the Maloney Ski Club, and in his free time, he enjoys reading novels by Kurt Vonnegut. Clay will be attending UConn in the fall and majoring in pharmacy. Mrs. Valentin commented that Clay is an insightful young man who exhibits strength of character and intellect in all that he does. The inspiration for Clay's speech, "What do you want to become?" came when he began making observations about the state of public education and how a student's perception changes as they age. Please welcome Clay.
I remember sitting in kindergarten class with a huge smile on my face. My teacher, Miss Donovan, had just asked us the single most important question of our lives. She asked us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Now, it was an amazing concept, really, that we could become anything we want. I remember shouts of proud and excited kids just lighting up the room one by one with words like a doctor or a policeman or even a garbage man from the occasional class clown. Still, even with the ignorance that these kids had about these jobs' roles and responsibilities, the dreams of these children still portrayed a larger desire for compassion, the willingness to help others. These children, the so-called future of our nation, they know no war, no political conflict, no violence or social discrimination. So how is it that we've continually raised generation after generation of adults who've seemingly abandoned these ideals? Something to look at would be these same children as they're graduating high school. No longer are they the bright-faced, eager, hope for the future as once described. Instead now, these times for them are times of stress and confusion. The question of what do you want to become has changed to what do you need to become, or what have you ought to become. Suddenly, different jobs start holding different numerical values, so much so that one could go online and look up a so-called objective list, ranking these jobs in order of their so-called importance. Now, that same future doctor might feel intimidated by the requirements of becoming that doctor, and they might instead give in to the pressures of the accessibility of becoming that policeman or that garbage man just to fulfill his basic living expenses. Now, the actual value of public education and its importance in seeking a desired future has become overshadowed by the necessity to obtain a sustainable income after high school. I mean, you could say that yes, with proper planning and consideration, oftentimes a student may obtain sufficient income at the time of their graduation. However, this is an ideal that often does not become apparent to the student until it is far too late, and its prospects loom over our shoulders as a constant reminder of our shortcomings. It's a bit like stopping to tie your shoes, but your friends keep walking on without you. Congratulations, your shoes are tied, you're ready to run, which is convenient now, because you're going to have to if you ever hope to catch up. Too often, I see students who portray such an existential outlook on life and on education. And what I mean by this is that certain students tend to accept their failures or their shortcomings as a part of their own identity. These students may say things to themselves along the lines of, "Oh, I failed this test because I'm not smart enough," or "I'm dumb," or even, "School just isn't for me." Now, this is obviously detrimental to the learning process because it instills this idea in their minds that they simply cannot improve because of who they are. A better way to look at this is through what is called the incremental philosophy. Now, the incremental thinker may see these same situations and say things to themselves along the lines of, "Oh, I failed this test because I didn't study hard enough. I'll make sure to crack down next time." Or, "If I do more of my work, I can get my grades up." Now, this mindset really encourages the ideas of hard work, determination, perseverance, but unfortunately in today's age, this mindset is becoming rarer and rarer, and students are giving up too easily. In 2009, the percentage of high school graduates who moved on to college peaked at 70%. This percentage has been falling ever since, and that was 9 years ago. Of those not enrolled in college, 74% were actively in the workforce. Now, these falling statistics are proving to show a falling interest in higher education or even self-fulfillment. a major selling point of higher education and college in itself. I recently spent this past summer at Wesleyan for a summer arts program, and while I was there, I met some of the most interesting and brilliant and gifted people I've ever met in my entire life. And I remember asking them what their plans were for college and careers after high school, but I was shocked to hear them say things like actor, musician, visual artist, because I was taught that these jobs were impractical. I thought that they were fools for seeking such unfulfilling roles. But when I saw how proud and happy and passionate they were to be sharing their dreams with me, I realized how wrong I was. Because these people, these children, they were doing what made them happy, and they were doing what they loved because that's what they wanted to do. And they wouldn't let other people or some silly numbers stop them from doing so. I realize now that there's this perception that high school is just this 4-year filter that's crushing the dreams of today's youth, but it's not. As high schoolers, we have so many tools at our disposal, but it's ultimately up to us to make the conscious decision to use them to our benefit. We cannot continue to allow others to get in the way of our own self-fulfillment. If you want to be a doctor, or a lawyer, or a musician, or an actor, or a policeman, even if you want to be a garbage man, go do that. Nobody's stopping you. We need to be able, as individuals, to go out there into the world and create a future for ourselves where we are all happy and excited and passionate and proud of what we've accomplished and of who we've become. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. Next, we have Trevor Herbst. Trevor is the son of Bob and Jamie Herbst. Trevor is a member of the Maloney football team, and he is a Yukon ambassador. When he isn't working at Stu Leonard's, he enjoys fishing, playing pickup sports, and cliff jumping. Mr. Watson wasn't surprised Trevor was a finalist tonight. He said, "Trevor is very charismatic, and he can talk his way out of anything." This fall, Trevor plans to seek an apprenticeship and gain hands-on experience as an electrician. Trevor's love for the arts was his inspiration for his speech, "Are Students the Problem?" Here, he discusses the importance of allowing students the time, space, and freedom to find their niche. Please welcome Trevor.
Every year, 1.2 million students drop out of high school. That's about 1 out of every 15 students. Think about that for a second. 1 out of every 15 students is a high school dropout. Schools in the United States are killing students' creativity. They're outdated, and they do not provide equal opportunity to all students. Schools in the United States are inadequate and need to change in order to provide opportunities for growth among students. Schools measure a student's success based on 4 subject areas: math, science, social studies, and English. If a student is not proficient or does not find an interest in just one of these 4 subject areas, it nowadays could diminish their entire high school careers. For example, the most important criteria for college entrance is the SAT exam. And for years, the SAT tested a student's math and verbal skills. That's it. The only changes in the past 25 years have been to add another section of English, which is used for writing. Passages from the math and verbal section include excerpts from science and social studies. Where's the love for the practical or fine arts? A student may be very good in art, or in music, or even in the medical field, which all show characteristics of higher level intelligence. Yet, none of these subjects are on today's SAT exam. And unfortunately, none of these subjects are taken seriously until college. And by then, those 1.2 million dropouts have already lost the determination to pursue a career in something they would strive and succeed. Matthew Lynch, author of the article 10 Reasons Why the United States Education System is Failing, says that we need to expand our standards for the talented and gifted. Schools equate talented and gifted, or TAG students as they are called, as the smartest students. But talented and gifted is not always the brightest student in the room. We need to push a new criteria for what talented and gifted truly means, and not base it off of the aforementioned 4 subjects. Students are so diversified with what they're strongest in, and for many students, what they're strongest in is not one of the 4 main subjects. Not only are schools so focused on these four main subjects, they don't offer many classes specific to a student's interests. Sure, there are art, music, or even medical programs, but how many of these classes are more than just intro courses? In math, for example, we go over algebra, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus, geometry, and statistics. But for sociology, all we cover is the basics of sociology. Albert Einstein, one of the smartest people to ever live, said, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will believe its whole life that it is stupid." In other words, schools need to identify more of their tagged dropouts. Otherwise, they will live their entire lives believing that they are the fish that can't climb the tree. Schools in the United States are outdated. Do you know why we still have summer vacation? Previously, students used summer vacation to help their families on the farms. Is that really the reason that we still have it? Education in the United States has not changed in over a century, and that's not speaking figuratively either. Picture in your head the classroom 100 years ago and picture in your head the classroom now. In both pictures, you would see desks with chairs, all placed in rows, with a board and paper to write on. Sure, there are computers now, and that's a huge resource tool, and it may even make things easier for students. But guess what doesn't change? The subject material that the student studies. If schools in the United States want to improve, we need to start thinking outside of the box. We need to start thinking more like Finland, which according to a 2017 analysis done by World Top 20 Project, has the world's best education system. Finland is completely changing the way that the education systems are working around the world. Finland has no required standardized testing, but in contrast, the United States is the standardized testing capital of the world. The world needs innovators and students who think experimentally and inventively, but America's schools are asking for almost the exact opposite by having students do the same problems over and over and having them read the same books year after year. Timo Heikkinen, school principal in Finland for 24 years, said, "I think in fact that teachers would tear off their shirts if they had to prepare students for standardized tests." Finland believes that standardized tests are cancerous to a student's education. Standardized tests value questions that answer who, what, where, and why, all lower-level thinking questions on Bloom's taxonomy. But what the world should be valuing is questions that make you interpret, criticize, and form an opinion. Educational systems around the world that value higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy have some of the world's smartest and most educated students. Pasi Salberg, former math and physics teacher who is now in Finland's Ministry of Education and Culture, said, "We prepare students to learn how to learn, not how to take a test." This is the mindset of Finland educators, and the results are clearly impressive. Although the United States has made some strides in project, collaborative, and mastery-based learning, it has been slow in both creation and implementation. Schools in the United States want to improve. There are some things we need to take care of besides standardized testing. First, we need smaller schools and more diverse learning environments for a more personalized education. Next, we need a smaller student-to-teacher ratio so that educators can identify the learning style that best fits for the individual and not for the majority. Furthermore, all students have different strengths, and the United States education system does not cover all of them. Instead of cutting faculty and eliminating courses, more money needs to be put into non-traditional educational programs for the talented and gifted in all subject areas. More money needs to be put into higher education, specifically making college more affordable for the socioeconomically disadvantaged. I mean, the thought of incurring so much debt prohibits so many students from applying themselves in high school, let alone to college. Why do so few people climb Mount Everest? The idea that it is so daunting prohibits them from even trying before they even get started. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we need to put more of an emphasis on our technical school systems. Instead of inhibiting such a large number of students, causing them to drop out of public high schools annually with the odds stacked against them, we need to encourage these students, many of them tag students, to see technical high schools as a more viable option where they can learn a trade they're interested in, stay in school, and become productive members of society. Schools in America are in a crisis. They are outdated, and most unfortunately, they are dropout factories. Although Meriden Public Schools has and is making great strides in education, the United States as a whole educates so few and seems indifferent to the plight of so many failing students. We seem so surprised that so many jobs are outsourced and so many Americans earn minimum wage. But if America wants to improve and truly call itself a land of opportunity, politicians, legislators, and education leaders need to come together and put more of an emphasis on our educational systems. Now, I'd like to ask, when it comes to education in America, are students really the problem? Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Finally, we have Caitlin Mayhew. She is the daughter of Carrie and John Paul Mayhew. Caitlin is a captain of the varsity soccer team and a member of the track team. She is also vice president of the Interact Club and president of Skills USA. Our Med Careers teacher, Mrs. Simone, said Caitlin's ability to care and nurture the elderly far surpasses her biological age. Caitlin has already been accepted to the honors program at the University of St. Joseph's, where she will pursue a career in nursing. In her free time, she enjoys spending time with her family and hiking with her friends. Kate's speech entitled "Judging My Confidence" appeals to teenagers as she takes them through the daily insecurities she and others face growing up in a digital world. Here is Caitlin Mayhew.
Confidence. According to the dictionary, confidence is a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. But for me, I have a different definition. To me, confidence is the constant battle between letting words define you and choosing to accept those words while not allowing them to have power over you. Throughout my life, I have fought this battle. From a young age, I have struggled with my confidence, as many of you can probably relate to. The feeling of never being good enough, or not reaching your full potential, not making your parents proud, or even yourself proud. My lack of confidence comes with doubt and insecurities that carry over into every aspect of my life, even the way I talk. For many of you that know me, you know how fast I talk. It is often made a joke of or laughed about among my peers, but in reality, it stems from my lack of confidence. When I'm afraid I might get judged for what I'm about to say, I speed up. Most of the time, it isn't even intentional. It registers in my brain before I even say it, as a precaution. The way I think of it, if no one hears or understands me, then they can't judge me. My fear of being judged is the foundation for my lack of confidence. In a way, I live in constant fear of judgment, so I degrade myself to less than I actually am. I have always held everyone else's opinions of me to a higher standard than my own. No matter what I'm doing, picking out an outfit for school or ordering a meal at a restaurant, in the back of my mind, I find myself worried about what others will think of me. I have always been more concerned with others' views and opinions of me than with my own happiness. It is not healthy, I know that, but it's something I find myself struggling to control. Even right now, delivering this speech, in the back of my mind, I'm searching for the words to say and the opinions you all might have of me in your own heads. I always try to put mind over matter and tell myself, it doesn't matter what they think of me, but I somehow always manage to let words get to me. I find it challenging to have an opinion of myself, or even be able to distinguish what I want from what everyone expects of me, because the only opinions I have in my head are the opinions of others. Growing up in the era of social media, I find it hardest not to fall victim to judgment and self-criticism. Popularity has become a contest: who gets the most favorites on a tweet, or who has more followers on Instagram, whereas beauty has been redefined to Instagram comments and reposts on Visco. It is difficult to live in a world where social media fame is longed for, and others' approval of a photo is needed before posting. And even when you post that photo, if it doesn't get enough likes in the first 20 minutes, you take it down, because it must not be good enough. It could just be that people aren't on their phones scrolling through the app. Our first response is to criticize ourselves and diminish our value and our beauty because we aren't getting as many likes as someone else might, or not as many comments under our posts in comparison to others. We have fallen victim to the ideals of popular and attractive that are bred in a society of the perfect Instagram post. Personally, I've always been my toughest critic. With school and sports, I'm continuously doubting myself and my abilities. I find myself easily stressed over schoolwork and always second-guessing what I say. I rarely raise my hand in class, in fear of every eye in the room turned on me and the judgment I'll receive for the words that flow from my lips. I never believe I am better than any of my opponents, and I always belittle myself and my talent in order to let others take the spotlight. I never believe I am worthy for any recognition I may receive through soccer or in school. I never brag about my grades or any of my achievements on and off the field, and if I ever do, it has taken everything in me and was most likely due to the constant pressure from my friends or family to be more confident. I'm the first to find flaws in my abilities and do not hesitate to point them out to my mom, who will always shut them down with warm words of love and encouragement like any mother would. I find it challenging to have an opinion of myself or even be able to distinguish what I want from what everyone expects of me, because the only opinions I have in my head are the opinions of others. I know confidence is an attribute that will always serve you well and aid in your future endeavors, so I try to compensate my lack of confidence by acting it off or pretending. I never really talk about my lack of confidence, so I laugh at the jokes people make about me and try not to let others' words get to me. But I'm human. I have feelings and emotions just like each and every one of you, and at times I feel a bit more sensitive than the average person would, because it doesn't take much to upset me. I often find myself unprotected from verbal harm, because in a sense, I have no armor. I am sensitive, diffident, and doubtful of myself. When others find words to label and define me, they stick. I feel plastered in other people's opinions of me, but as I move through life and reflect upon myself and the person I want to become, I'm slowly peeling away the years of self-doubt and insecurities and trying to love me for me. I have chosen my happiness and my views over anyone else's. Choosing to be happy in your own skin is the first step towards a happier you, as I have learned through my own experiences. It took me countless years to realize just how little others' opinions of me really mean. It took time and was a continuous battle to overcome my struggles and my confidence. For so long, I allowed others' words to speak louder than my own. Their voices were stronger than mine, but once I silenced those around me, I was able to find genuine happiness with myself. I've realized I'm proud of the person I've become, and although I still struggle with my confidence, I've come a long way. I've learned you can't change the way people see you or control what they say about you, so you just need to embrace who you are. There are times when the words will still hurt, but choosing to ignore them and not let them affect you is a true testament to your amount of strength. I chose to look at my life from a whole new perspective when my happiness was just as important as anyone else's. And although it seems insignificant, in the grand scheme of things, it was the most important step for me to take. I can only change the way I see myself in comparison to the way others see me. Just as the famous quote goes, self-confidence is the most attractive quality a person can have. How can anyone see how great you are if you can't even see it yourself? It's my time to find the greatness within myself, and I challenge each and every one of you to do the same.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite our three judges towards the back of the auditorium so they can make their very difficult decision, and I invite the silhouettes to come and perform for you.
There are clouds in the sky.
So many people to thank for making this evening possible. First to Mr. Thomas Gordon, who printed the programs and does so every year willingly, no matter when we bring the programs to him. Thank you, Mr. Gordon. To Mr. Keyser and members of his custodial staff, thank you for readying the auditorium, especially after last night's spring concert. Thank you to members of the Leo Club, Key Club, and Student Council for serving as ushers this evening. Thank you to the Fine Arts Department students whose work is displayed in the hallway for us to enjoy, and to Mrs. Jessica Sperry, Fine Arts Department Chair, who took the time to set up the student work. Thank you to all the musical performers tonight, the Silhouettes, the Dan Coleman Quartet, Mr. Pelletier and the Cantables, and Mrs. Cohen's String Quartet. Thank you all. Thank you also to Mr. Sorensen and the students from his video production class. Thank you to Maloney students Matt Sauer and Jacob Lavoie for lighting and tech. Thank you to Lee Taus from the Meriden Record Journal. Our local paper has done a fantastic job over the years at covering this event. It's been a very busy news week, and so we thank Lee for being here tonight. And finally, to Mr. Justin Rich, long-term substitute teacher, and his culinary classes for providing tonight's refreshments. I also want to take this opportunity to thank our judges for the essay contest. First, Mr. James Mangino, longtime Latin teacher at both Maloney High School and at Lyman Hall High School. Mr. Mangino is here tonight. Will you please stand, Jim, and be recognized? Did he leave? Did he leave? Oh, that's too bad. Mr. Goody pulled a Matizek. Mrs. Susan Perrone was another one of our judges. She is the supervisor of curriculum and accountability in the Meriden Public School System. Sue is also here this evening. Please stand and be recognized. Sue. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge our judges for the speaking contest. The preliminary round judges were faculty members, so thank you to Mrs. Carabetta, Mr. Good, Ms. Valentin, and Mrs. Mackey. Thank you all. And our judges who had a really difficult task tonight, our final round judges. First is Ms. Ellen Fugate, a data fellow for the RISE Network. Ellen is the RISE Network is an organization that supports fellow educators, advancing student outcomes through the financial backing of the Dalio Foundation. Ms. Fugate has been instrumental in generating reports to help students stay on track and to give teachers the opportunity to make informed decisions about student progress. Ms. Fugate received her undergraduate degree from Denison, her master's from Harvard, and is a former teacher. Welcome, Ellen, and thank you. Please stand and be recognized. Our second judge this evening for the speaking contest is Mr. Jim Suzio, president of the Suzio Insurance Center in Meriden for the past 27 years. Mr. Suzio is a product of the Meriden Public Schools, graduating from Platt High School in 1983. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Business Communication from Bentley University. During his time at Bentley, Mr. Suzio also studied abroad at Kansai International University in Osaka, Japan. After returning to the family business, Mr. Suzio earned his Executive MBA from the University of Connecticut in 2000. He and his wife, Maureen, have 3 boys, all at Lincoln Middle School. He wrote that both he and his wife hope their sons can challenge themselves as much as the Hicks participants here this evening. There are few people, if any, who are more supportive of this community than Jim Suzio. We are very fortunate to have him as a judge this evening, and I am very proud to call him my friend. Welcome, Jimmy. Please stand and be recognized. Our final judge for this evening is my favorite. Her name is Mrs. Megan Ouellette, and I can call her my favorite because I have the distinction of being her brother. Megan was a class valedictorian at Mercy High School, a graduate of the College of the Holy Cross, where she received her undergraduate degree in psychology, and Quinnipiac University School of Law. After working in Atlanta as a healthcare consultant, she returned to Connecticut, first working at Yale New Haven Hospital Health System as litigation counsel. She is now Associate General Counsel for Hartford Healthcare. Megan is pulling double duty tonight, as she already was one of the judges for the essay contest and graciously stepped in to judge the speaking contest when one of our other judges had to cancel at the last minute. Love you, Meg, and as always, I owe you one. Thank you. Stand and be recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, there are also a few people in attendance tonight that I would like to recognize. First, our administrative team at Maloney High School, our principal, Mrs. Jennifer Straub. Our assistant principal, Mrs. Erin Lyons-Barton. And lurking in the shadows somewhere, assistant principal in Maloney High School Ninja, Mr. John Kuckel. I'd also like to recognize Mrs. Sue Moore from Downtown Central Office. Sue is the supervisor of blended learning and a past Hicks Award winner. Please stand and be recognized, Sue. Sue, I won't say what year. I won't say what year, I promise. And from the Meriden Board of Education, Mrs. Pam Baer. Please stand and be recognized. And now it is time to award the prizes and medals for the Hicks Prize Essay and Public Speaking Contest. First, we will do the essay contest. In fourth place, for her speech, Women in Medicine, Brianne Pappas. In third place, for her essay, Stronger Than You Know, Elena Anatrella. In second place, for her essay, Alone with Myself, Olivia Bischoff. And the 2018 Hicks Prize Essay Contest winner for her essay, Mapping Through My Mind, Katie Nowicki. And now for the speeches. In fourth place, for his speech, Are Students the Problem?, Trevor Herbst. In third place, for his speech, Why is the Right Wrong?, Dmitry Karnak. In second place, for his speech, What Do You Want to Become?, Clay Fanning. And the 2018 Hicks Prize Speaking Contest winner for her speech, Judging My Confidence, Caitlin Mayhew. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming this evening. We truly appreciate it. Please join us outside in the hall area for refreshments.